All right, folks. So, what we're doing today is something a little bit different, but it's something that I've kind of always wanted to do. I felt like I at least somewhat understood what was happening in the world and the news, and I thought that I feel like everyone else should understand too. So, what we're doing right now is we're doing what I'm going to call the news dive. And so, my news dives are just going to be kind of me going back through the day, and basically what I'm doing is I'm just going through and I'm figuring out oh geez, that was bad. I'm figuring out, what's important. What do you guys want to know about, and what do I feel like people should know about? So, yeah, with that, welcome to our first ever news dive. Today we're going to be talking about several different things. We have a variety of stuff to talk about. Just ISIS. We got this kid back in the news. We got the White House once again. Good old, just it's a real smorgasbord of interesting news this time around. But yeah, let's just get started. Today, pretty interesting day. Today is February 20th. And today we're going to be talking about, to start with, we're going to be talking about this article here from NPR. U.S. hate groups risen by 30% in the last 4 years. At least that's what the data says. So this article, what it's essentially talking about, it's from the Southern Poverty Law Center, which essentially is just it's kind of like a watchdog group is essentially what they do, and they keep track of important information. There are a variety of different groups. They take all different forms, but in this case, this one is the Southern Poverty Law Center, and what they're doing is they're, getting statistics, trying to figure out how many different hate groups there are. Now, before we get any further into this story and exactly what they're saying, I do just want to make sure that everybody understands that these guys are a little more than just a watchdog group. They're probably run by, I would suffice it to say, liberals, Democrats, that kind of stuff, because essentially what they're doing is but they're still taking subjective data in a sense, because they're the ones who have to say, oh yeah, this is a hate group and this isn't a hate group. And so it comes to this head where these guys are trying, especially now that Trump is elected, they're trying really hard to kind of push this agenda that Trump's this bad guy, and he's like, I mean, not to say that Trump isn't kind of a shit dude and he's kind of an asshole. This article is basically talking about here. We got some important statistics. These are the big ones right here. In the last 4 years, hate groups have increased by 30% in the U.S. and just 7% in 2018 alone. It reported over 1,000 organizations as hate groups, and that is a 20-year high. So then this watchdog group goes on. They have a couple quotes here, how Trump is kind of causing this problem. And here, right here, there's a good quote. The numbers tell a striking story that this president is not simply a polarizing figure, but a radicalizing one. I mean, take with that what you will. They're saying what they need to say. They're trying to get attention, and they're trying to make people all riled up. And this is one of the problems that I find, a lot of the time with these kinds of articles. Here, we'll go back through. There's a little bit more. You can see here there's some stuff about them. Let's see. So this group publicly apologized because he paid a political activist to be included on the anti-Muslim extremist list. So you can see that they have a little bit of bias, and they kind of do their own thing in how they exactly set up these things. So that's just an example of kind of, take this group with a grain of salt. Like they're not all good. They might support what you're saying, but you gotta think more centrally, to be honest. They claim a lot that the hate is built around hysteria over losing a white majority nation to demographic change, and I think that's somewhat true. people will always be crazy and they need something to be crazy about, right? But I just don't like how they really just kind of blame Trump for all of this, and they're kind of squaring all the blame on Trump. And I think that, all this hate that's being built up, it just comes with the times. It's not as much just Trump. Polarizing time in general, everyone has a lot of emotions. Everyone has a lot of stuff to say. They just kind of spread bullshit and lies and hate really easily. And it's really easy to be stupid on the internet now too. I can tell you very much. Like, there's tons of information out there, but it's also just really easy to just say, screw that. I don't need to see all this. This doesn't really matter to me. And I think that's the main takeaway that we need to remember from all this. It's that, these groups, they're not just white. They're not just KKK people and neo-Nazis who grew up in this kind of world. There's also been a rise of, here, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, well, here in the article, it talks about different groups, not only just white nationalists or white supremacists, but also black nationalist groups. Yeah, anti-white, unlike white nationalists, have little support and basically no sway. Yeah, you can kind of see what they're doing here. They're taking these other groups and they're kind of trying to diminish them a little bit. So this Southern Poverty Law Center is trying to paint white people as the bad guys. But I think it's important that we all remember that, yes, it might be easier for, a 17-year-old white kid to be radicalized and think a certain way because of the environment that he lives in. But, it's not to say that it's impossible or even unlikely for, the same age black teenager to see similar things in his neighborhood, except this time about anti-white protests. I think we've all seen that. We all don't like to talk about it. It makes people uncomfortable. I still can't find where they actually talk about black nationalist groups. It must be up here somewhere. Yeah, that's just an important thing that I think we should remember about this story in particular. It's just kind of it's a little bit of a non-story. This is just NPR getting, bad PR for Trump, bad PR for white people. It gets clicks. It does what it needs to do. But I think there's an important thing that we can all take away from this first story. Everybody gets into their own bubble, and it's really dangerous. It's really dangerous, and it gets into a lot of, muddy territory when you start to close yourself off from other ideas. Like, I don't like, how do I phrase it? I don't like white nationalists, I guess I would say. I don't like, right-wing conservatives. For the most part, generally, I find them to be kind of aggressive. But I think that, going on a Fox News or going on, a Washington Post, I guess would be the equivalent for, say, a white nationalist, and kind of trying to broaden your, just your life and your social circle and all this stuff. It's a real problem when people just kind of pack themselves into this real tight space where they only know a certain group of people, and it's really easy it's up to chance, who that group of people is. And, if say the only thing that matters to a person is location, like if that's their only reason for having friends is because they're nearby, then, what's the chances that the people nearby, the people you become friends with are, who wants to say it, neo-Nazis, whatever. But, if that's all and that's just your friends, then that's who you grow up with. And I think that in this climate where instead of trying to talk about each other and trying to talk about other people and people that might be different than you, people just would rather plug their ears and make memes about others and, kind of spread shit. And that it just gets into a real mess at some point. Anyway, one last thing, just an important part that I almost missed was that, just talking about how this article and this group is kind of trying to make Trump this enemy, make Trump this enemy. But a lot of white supremacists here down at the bottom, Richard Spencer says, the Trump moment is over. It's time for us to move on now. And I think that just encapsulates what we see. And that's that, hate doesn't care. Hate doesn't care what the president is. Hate just got lucky that President Trump happened to be such a polarizing dude, and he happened to piss everybody off because, he pissed everybody off. Like, I don't think there's a very small number of people that are, genuinely happy with the way our country is right now. And I think that just builds hate. Like, it's just resentment and just, groups of people blaming other groups because they don't understand and they don't see that, the real people that are fucking us are not, it's not white people are fucking black people or the other way around or just minorities in general. It's never that simple. It's the social elite. It's the people with money, the people with power, the people who, they decide how the world works. These people are the ones that are coming in. These are the people that are coming in and they're saying, my opinion, my money is more important than anybody else. And so, it just gets in this horrible mindset, where these people, they're just filled with ambition and they just do whatever they can to build up this, I don't want to, maybe a reputation, maybe something else, but they're just constantly, screwing the little guy because, what they want is, well, it's all that matters, really. I mean, when you think about it like that, it's kind of it's a real rough situation.